Hello, friends, and welcome to 10 Points Under, where 10 points will get you a spear, but not a gun. This is Big Bullfrog, and joining me today, again, is Chris Perkins. Awesome player, great Heroscaper, great knowledgeable player, strategist, good guy extraordinaire. It's Chris.
Hey, thanks for having me back. Always fun to be on the channel.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm always glad to have you on the channel. It's always good talking Heroscape with you, so I'm excited to do this game too, especially. This will be a good one.
Same. Yeah, and I like that intro. There aren't too many figures that are actually 10 points each that you can take advantage of, so nice capitalization.
Yeah, I like to do it when I can. But yeah, speaking of those figures, we'll just jump right in just to explain this game because this is going to be an awesome matchup. I'm really excited for it. So this is the semifinals game from the Online Con main event championship. The big one. Semifinals. This is between Dysole and Vegetarian. This is a reverse the whip round, so they are playing the armies that their opponent brought. So over here on the left, we've got Veggie playing Dysole's army. So Dysole had brought 4 squads of Ashigaru Yari, dropping one of them because of the figure limit, as well as Raylan, James Murphy, and Laglore. So a pretty cool off-the-wall army, as you would expect from Dysole, that Veggie is going to have to pilot over here. And then over on the right, we've actually got not like a typical Veggie army, but he does love the Death Chasers, so it's a pretty cool variation on the Death Chaser build for Reverse the Whip. We've got 2 squads of Death Chasers of Thesk, along with 2 squads of Arrowgrets, and then backing them up is Raylan, Nirek, and 4 Swag Riders. So I'm actually really excited to see this army in action because that's a build that I've wanted to see in action for a while, just because, both Death Chasers and Arrowgrets can bond with the Swag Riders. I think it'll be really cool.
Yeah, it looks like a real good matchup. And with Veggie's army that Dysole's playing, especially, I really like those kind of builds for Reverse the Whip because you get a lot of fairly strong characters, but in such short quantities that the room for error and the margin for error is just very small. Like Death Chasers are great, but if you lose 3 or 4 Death Chasers, you have virtually none left at that point. So yeah, Veggie certainly always likes to bring Death Chasers as well. So no surprise that they've got at least a semi-prominent role in that army.
Right. Yeah. It's funny. I think it was this summer that they were talking in one of the strategy figure threads somewhere or other on Heroscapers, but someone had brought up splashing Death Chasers, and Veggie had said that he didn't think that Death Chasers were really viable under under 3 squads, and then he brought this army. So pretty interesting. I wonder if he was throwing people off the trail or if he just started the gears turning at that point. But I mean, for Reverse the Whip, definitely it's a meta where you can accommodate that, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, for sure. And the Yar on the flip side, the Yari are definitely not a squad you see fielded all the time. It's always fun to see some of those lower tier units get a chance to shine in main events like this.
Yeah, I'm really excited for that. I mean, okay, so there were so many armies that I liked from this, and I feel like every time I see an army from this tournament, I say it's one of my favorite armies. It's because they were all one of my favorite armies. But I mean, I do love using the Yachty as just a screen for these ranged figures, but also these ranged figures aren't super powerful individually, but the Yari do have some offensive potential. It's a cool build. I like it. This is going to be a fun game.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so we'll go ahead. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to mention the glyphs before we rolled in a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
Not sure how big of an effect they may or may not have. Kelda in the south end, Laglor and Narek seem like the most likely heroes that might end up possibly grabbing it. I had to take a guess. And with Ulanivia, I think is how you pronounce the one in the north. Not entirely sure, but something close to that. There aren't really a ton of unique heroes that are going to be wanting to use that glyph necessarily. Laglor and Murphy obviously are, but they both have their ranged special attacks that they're going to want to use a lot too. So I'm not sure how much that particular glyph may end up playing in. Probably a little bit less so than if the glyphs were something like the movement glyph or Wanik. But you never know. We'll see how how they could end up coming into play and mattering in the mid or late game.
Yeah, I think definitely. I think that's a good point. I don't really see these guys going for those glyphs. Of course, actually, I'm now flashing back though to last time, or one of the previous times that we recorded together recently. We were on this same map, and there was a unique attack glyph up in the north too. But that was different because there was a Torkolna on that game, so he definitely liked that glyph. But
Yes, yeah, 6 attack was not enough for that Torkolna.
I know, right? It's never enough. Yeah, so I'll go ahead and get the game going. We'll see how the Orc Battle Rush comes out.
Looks like Veggie wins initiative there. Or
actually,
yeah,
I was actually about to ask you, since they need to Battle Rush first, I think they usually Battle Rush and then reroll?
Yes. Yeah, you are correct.
Okay.
My apologies there. Jumped ahead of myself. Temporarily forgot that Battle Rush was happening. But yeah, so this is one of the few times when you wouldn't actually use those D20 numbers that are auto rolled for you for initiative.
Yeah, one of those strange side cases.
Waste of a good 20, sadly, for Veggie.
So yeah, so Dysole takes it instead, moves up Raylan. Standard. Veggie, move up Raylan.
Yep. Probably a little bit of mirroring happening with their opposing Raylans here.
Yeah, I'd imagine. Like right there, I'm guessing. Unless Veggie wants to go for a more conservative placement at first. I guess with these Death Chasers already coming across the board, yeah, I guess a more reserved placement.
Yeah, and I think that makes sense given what the early game matchup looks like it's going to be, because Veggie has the ranged figures and can afford to be a little bit more conservative.
That's true, yeah.
Especially with Dysole having already moved up all those Death Chasers.
Eric coming up.
Yeah, staying hidden behind that big glacier nicely. Same with that Death Chaser, using the terrain nicely to stay hidden.
Yeah, it's a good map for a slow roll, and that's really big when you've only got 2 squads of your main offense.
For sure. And so in terms of order markers left, it looked like Veggie had 2 on Yari and 1 on Lagnor. Given Raylan's placement with a height adjacent, I would strongly suspect that order marker 2 will be on Yari to try and plug up those holes where Death Chasers would otherwise be able to get those heighted shots down. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, exactly what we're seeing here. Pretty cheap figures to use as human shields for Raylan.
Yeah, really nice fodder there. They're just as cheap as rats. Just as good as Death Reavers. Could imagine, if they had 3 more defense and could move on their opponent's turn and 1 more move. Yeah,
otherwise it's basically the same.
Yeah. Although I will be interested to see, just like as this plays out, though, a bit more seriously, because the Ashigaru, definitely lacking the defensive qualities that the Death Reavers have, but they do have the power to actually hit back when you take turns to reposition them. So I'll be interested to see how that factors in this game.
Yeah, definitely. Especially with, it might be a little bit difficult to get some of those encircle attacks off given the particular terrain of this map. Like that bush that's right in front of Raylan,
right?
For example, is going to make it a little bit more difficult to try and get those 3 adjacent. Nice start there for Dysole.
Yep. First blood. Number 3 also on Yari. Okay. All right.
Sticking on Yari. Yeah, I think this still makes a lot of sense. You just want to get as many of those up front into a screening position as you can.
Mm-hmm. Especially with so many back here, you want to get those guys forward as quickly as possible.
Yeah, for sure. Especially with them outside of Raylan's aura up there in the far north. Mm-hmm. Not as big right now, but definitely a spot where a Swag Rider or something at a later point could pretty easily get to and start taking some really cheap shots down. But it does look like we will be getting an encircle here.
Yeah.
That's exciting. That is an interesting side aspect of when you're moving Yari and how you want to do that, because if you are going to get an encircle, that fourth attack is a lot less important than the encircle, and so oftentimes you can just use 3 of them as offense and then bring up another one in the back to try and keep your slow roll moving a bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, I mean, just like, especially with that point, Yari seemed like a really cool, just like underexplored figure, just because, you know, usually they're used with Kato, in which case, I mean, in that case, they're still screening for the arquebus, but it is cool to be able to have that, you know, I get to attack you with 6 dice once, which is nice, pretty nice, and then also have the freedom to, like, you know, I don't have to worry about where my 4th figure is going as far as offense goes, because I don't need to worry about that attack.
Yeah, it's not quite the same, but in a lot of ways like that, they play similarly to the zombies, where you've got sort of the horde movement, where your focal point is just picking one particular attack for the turn, even though you've got a ton of these squads floating around. Remember, probably the only time I've seen the Yari used prominently in a tournament was the worst figure tournament that Kevin Dola ran.
Yeah.
About almost a year back or so, I think, where the goal was you had to bring an army that your opponent would play your army every round. There were a lot of restrictions. For instance, any common squad, you had to include at least one common squad, and any sort of commons you had to have multiples of. So you couldn't bring 1x Yari. But what ended up happening was that a lot of people ended up bringing two sets of Yari as their required common for the tournament. I certainly did, and they were a pretty popular pick.
Yeah, I remember that. I brought another somewhat popular pick. I brought a couple squads of repulsors because I was trying to predict the meta, and I'm like, I really only get hosed if a lot of people bring Yari, and then a lot of people brought Yari, so.
It was interesting how in that particular tournament, where a lot of really bad figures just completely wiped the map of Yari.
Yeah.
In a lot of matchups. Like I think in my first game of that tournament, my opponent gave me two sets of Shades of Bleakwood, which is pretty poor army, and they just completely mopped the floor, which was fun. But going back to this particular matchup, looks like we see a Narek thinking about moving into a pretty aggressive spot.
Yeah, that'd be an interesting. I don't think Raylan could see that. That does seem
might be able to see the tail depending on how you.
Yeah.
But it looks like Dysole's not going to take that particular spot.
Yeah, which I think I'd agree with. Although, Dysole, this is Biga from the future. Bond with a Swag Rider. She doesn't hear me. It doesn't always work.
It's tough communicating with the past. It takes a lot of energy.
It does.
It's a very tough thing to get precise. That's okay. Those Swag Riders they want to wait until later.
Being kept in reserve for the surprise attack later on.
It's one successful attack, and then
oof.
0 for 5. That's painful.
Thanks.
My guess is that the Yari will end up doing. They've got a couple options here because they could take that same encircle, or they could also get 2 height attacks.
Right. Yeah, that's what I was just looking at.
Yeah, up on those 2 3s, which is an interesting option.
Going for that one.
Yep. Yeah, and I think that makes sense. Because even if you don't get multiple kills, you're in a much better defensive position. Still in Raylan's aura. Makes it a little bit tougher for the Death Chasers to get where they want to be.
And you're also like, I mean, granted the Death Chasers will still be able to attack here, but you know, if they do clear that out, once they get to that point where they're clearing stuff out, and they're forced to attack up on these guys, they will be forced to take low ground attacks unless Narek is used.
Yeah, I mean the upside here is depending on how this goes, you might get some wounds on Narek. But on the flip side, you're also allowing Narek to get attack activations while not having to move forward at all.
Yeah.
So some pros and cons here. Although Narek's not in a bad spot in terms of taking wounds, because Narek can always grab Kelda in that particular spot.
Yeah.
which is a nice sort of backup plan. And with the way the board's set up, Narak could grab Kelda and then put a single Death Chaser on the 2-hex green or the 2-hex snow to the left of Kelda as a complete block. Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. As a complete blocker. Where there'd be no counterattacks possible from Yari. So it's a pretty good backup plan. Allows you to be a little bit more aggressive with Narak early.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big block.
Yeah.
Narak was trying to clear out that space that would definitely have had a Death Chaser jump up on it.
Oh yeah, that would have been really, really nice for Dysole. I keep getting them mixed up because they're playing each other's armies.
Yes. Reverse the whip can be tricky like that.
Going for the attacks up, and I mean, like, even though they're being forced to attack up, good stats are good, and these Death Chasers still have 4 attack and 5 defense with both auras right there.
They do. And although a 4 defense Yari is not something you see every day.
That's true, yeah.
There's one attack that goes down. Yeah. Removing the wrong figure there briefly.
Ooh, man, big blocks. Big blocks from the Yari, which is not something you usually expect to see.
No, definitely not. And it's especially important here because I think there's only one Yari beyond the 4 that are engaged that would have been able to get adjacent to get more attacks in next turn.
That's true, yeah.
Yeah, that one that was just highlighted because all the rest.
Are pretty far. I think
all the rest are more than 5 move away from being able to engage.
Or yeah.
So that could have been a much bigger swing there. And again, now we've got the Death Chasers rolling their super high defense.
Mm-hmm.
And Yari whiffing left, right, and center.
So some nice big swings and misses going on all over the place.
Yeah, defense is winning the day right now with these dueling Raylins.
All right, there's one gone.
That's one down. So at this point, pretty much any Yari that falls is going to be one less attack activation for next turn if Veggie's still got order markers on Yari.
Yeah.
And that's 3 Yari down.
Yep, so that's only 2 attacks now.
Yeah, and so Orm 3 is on Yari, so that's big, losing several activations there.
Mm-hmm. And so now I'm wondering, do you think it's because Veggie was, capitalizing, trying to take out these Death Chasers and, trying to, because if he takes out, 2 of them at this point, then he starts to hurt Dysole's activations per order marker. Do you think that's worth the risk, or would you rather be, moving up an extra Yari in order to sacrifice one of those attacks per turn?
I think I would do what Veggie did here, which is take the heighted attack and not take the even ground attack. So okay. Veggie ends up rolling up 3. A little bit of a compromise, but I think it gives you the best of both worlds. Especially because if Narak misses the attack on the heighted Yari to start the turn, all 3 of those Death Chasers are then sort of tethered and can't go out to chase down those 3 Yari that have moved up. So the worst case scenario here is you still lose those 2 Yari, but end up getting probably at least 3 attacks on your next turn. And even if the Death Chasers do chase them down, then they're outside of Raylan's aura, and they're certainly killable at that point in time.
Yeah, that's true.
But I think, is that the end of the round, or does Dysole have one more order marker left?
I believe that's the end of the round. Not 100% certain. Forgot to check.
So, sort of a big decision here then with Dysole in terms of how many order markers to still invest in on the Chasers. If you lose initiative, could easily lose 2 Death Chasers here, which would put you down below a fair amount.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So, and this is where these kinds of armies get tough, because I mean, that is a lot of defense that they're rolling, and we've already seen turns where, only 1 or no Death Chasers fall during a turn. But, the dice just have to be fickle for one turn for that all to go south.
It looks like Dysole put 3 order markers on
Oh wow,
those
nice.
Death Chasers, so
Yeah.
it's a hefty investment, that for sure. And the flip side, Veggie's got 2 on Yari, 1 on Murphy, and 1 on Laglor. So my guess would be that 1 and 2 on Yari, and then the 3 on one of the ranged heroes.
Mm-hmm. Also interesting to me that Dysole's bluffing with, well, the X will be either on Death Chasers or Raylan, so which means that she's either, actually taking a turn with Raylan, or she's not even bothering to bluff with the Arrowgrets at this point.
I think there's a decent chance that that's a 3 on Raylan to end up retreating.
Oh,
actually,
okay.
because at
Oh,
this
yeah.
point in time, once the Death Chasers are dead, you have your 2 ranged squads of Arrowgrets, or certainly your offense that you've got left. But
Mm-hmm.
Raylan's pretty. If those Death Chasers fall, Raylan's pretty vulnerable in her current spot because Yari would be able to get adjacent and start getting those encircle attacks up on Raylan. So it's definitely possible that that's an OM3 on Raylan to tactically retreat back to protect the Arrowgrets and keep Raylan safer.
Yeah, that's a really good point. That'd be a really good call if that's how it ends up going. Looks like the Death Chasers are kind of rocking it right now, but
yeah. In the meantime, there's a lot of skulls flying.
mm-hmm.
Although the last one was a nice big block there, but another Yari falling. So only a squad and a half of Yari left. Oh, okay, but Veggie switching to James Murphy.
There we go. Nice.
Potentially huge. Oh, that's nice. That's what you want to see there.
Yeah, those 2 skulls. One gone.
This could buy Veggie a lot of time if at least one of these other Death Chasers falls.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And it does. Yep. Of course, the side effect being blasting your own Yari, but
I think
it's only 10 points. 2's on Raylan.
Oh, interesting.
Okay, different than not quite what I was expecting.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious then if Raylan retreats or moves forward. I would think retreat.
Right.
Or not,
just
or
all the way
uber aggressive.
forward. Interesting. So, but let's see. Okay, there was only 1 order marker on James, so it's not going to be James next. Probably going to be Laglor, so that does deny Laglor from coming up onto higher ground.
That's true. Raylan's just so far away from your Arrowgrets at this point in time.
I know,
though.
yeah, that's my worry is, like, you've still got Narek here to hold the fort, kind of to keep, basically your Arrowgrets from being sniped, but I don't know. It's a risk. It could very well pay off really, really well, and it could also very well backfire.
So Veggie's had the 3 on Yari, which is interesting, but they've got only 2 that are going to be able to get in and attack anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
I assume that one that's forward most will end up taking its hided shot down on the Death Chaser, because we know that Dysole's last order marker is on the Chasers.
Yeah. That goes through. Nope, doesn't go through.
Good block, for sure. Freeing up that... Oh, yes. And so freeing up that Death Chaser is quite nice.
Really big, yeah. I can push forward to that position. That's really nice. Oh, I'm going straight for Raylan.
Yeah, I like this play. Veggie's only got 4 Yari left, so taking order markers on them is, at a minimum, a risk.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. And especially where, like, the ranged heroes are going to be a much bigger threat to the Arrowgrets than the Yari are going to be, taking out their support.
Definitely. And again, Dysole with some interesting questions on how many order markers to put on Chasers.
Mm-hmm.
This time I would guess it's just 1. I see a lot of value in order marker 1 on Chasers and really not anything else.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm quite curious to see how Dysole uses Raylan, potentially as an offensive piece, maybe, given how forward deployed she is.
Yeah, yeah. I'm wondering if she'll keep using Raylan. Could still even retreat with Raylan back to here. Could readjust her position forward. Because I mean, like Arrowgruts definitely want Raylan to be around, but also Raylan's kind of doing double duty in that she's like keeping the Arrowgruts from getting taken out before they even have a chance to be relevant. See, 2 arrows, 2 death.
Yeah,
Okay.
my guess is that the arrows are 2 and 3. But James
Oh, I like that disengage.
takes 1, but not the end of the world. Take a shot at another 2 out of 3.
Yeah.
So Murphy's rolling real well on that special at the moment. I'm not sure which figure that was since they're both rolling 5.
Right. I'd imagine you probably target Narak first, I'm guessing. Just in case you get the 3 out of 3 and Narak blinks.
That makes a lot of sense.
Oh, and they're checking line of sight to see if Raylan could see Narak. Which is a good catch. I'm not. VoIP, kind of, sort of. Not a very good line, but
It's close.
yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna say 4 seemed incorrect. Okay, so yeah, it was targeting Narak first. Yep, and then Narak does the jump over to Kelda.
Mm-hmm.
So there's one more order marker on Murphy.
That's
I
true. And
believe.
now with Narak moving down here, Murphy is pretty free to run back and, well, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. Can't quite get a big shotgun blast in. Wait,
So yeah,
this
so he can
again?
hit for 3. Yeah, targeting that swag in the middle. Another 2 out of 3.
Holy cow.
Murphy's special is on point.
Yeah. And with that swag dying in the first one, those Arrowgrats don't have a chance. Oh, no, wait, one of them does.
And that one has missed. That's a nice shot there from James.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's huge. Now that's only 4 Arrowgrats left. And Arrowgrats were already going to struggle against Murphy because they like to group up, and as long as he's still like relevant to the game, he's basically going to be forcing Dysole to like make sacrifices basically as far as attack power goes.
Yeah, for sure. Although Dysole does have a shot here to try and take out Murphy with order markers 2 and 3, because I believe Veggie had only put 2 order markers on Murphy.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
So,
Yeah.
so 3 is going to be on Laglor or Yari or something. I don't remember where it was placed at, but none of them are going to be able to do damage. I don't think. Possible Laglor might be able to get in range to shoot at that swag, but otherwise the Arrowgrats are going to have at least a little bit of time to move up and try and put some wounds on Murphy.
That's true. Yeah, so this turn at least, you're safe taking one of these Arrowgrats and putting it up here for 2 attacks of 2 up. Or even grouping right there. You've got a turn to work with.
So 3 attacks of 2 up.
Not super happy odds, but also, like, I mean, stuff can happen. It could happen. It might.
Murphy's in a really great position, though, being in the middle of that 3-hex, because the swag can't get up on height adjacent.
Mm-hmm.
And now the adjacent swag is kind of blocking the Arrowgrats from being able to get up there, too. So nice little plateau spot for Murphy to hold.
Yeah,
and defending like a champ.
And then, yeah, Laglor coming up. I'm going for her. And it's got to be auto.
Yeah, no reason not to.
Okay, blank, blank, and then blank. Sad day.
Ooh, super blank. Oh for 9. That's not the Laglor you want to see.
Yeah.
Although I would suspect Laglor to also take a disengage in the same way that Murphy did next round to push forward and try and start taking those auto loads down on some Arrowgrats.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're kind of seeing that risk that Dysole made earlier with Raylan just kind of, not playing out the way she exactly wanted it to work. With Raylan being so forward and with an army that really likes to benefit from Raylan. But of course, I mean, even then, James was still going to be a big worry no matter what. Because if Raylan's back and if Arrowgruts and Swags are clumping up, then he's still shooting.
So one even attack, it looks like, and then 2 attacks up.
Kind of. I don't know. Like, I mean, I think this is probably a risk that you need to take. Maybe, like, just as far as clumping up goes, because it does turn into an initiative gamble.
It does, but I think you pretty much have to.
Yeah.
Arrowgruts shooting up into a Raylan-backed Laglor is going to be painful enough.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can put 2 or maybe even 3 wounds on Murphy, then it becomes a pretty big risk to even take any turns with Murphy if you're veggie.
That's true. Yeah, the more I look at it, the more I think that I mean, yeah, like it's just a risk you got to take. I'm just paranoid because I've seen so many Arrowgruts get blowed up already.
Hey, an attack gets through.
There you go.
Not as much as you're hoping for, but it's something.
Yeah. 3 wounds left for Murphy.
I would suspect. My guess is that Veggie would put 1 on Murphy and then 2 and 3 on Laglor at this spot. Because if you win initiative, Murphy can disengage to 1 space further back and shoot at the Arrowgrut that's down in the south and try and take out that. Sorry, not the Arrowgrut, but the Swag.
Yeah.
And try and take the 2 Arrowgruts with it, which is a pretty juicy target.
Yeah, I don't think there's any way you don't go for that. I mean, especially with 3 lives left, you're pretty safe for that, I think.
You can even retreat Murphy back into Raylan Zara if you take that leaving engagement off that Swag. So if you move 2 spaces back and then 1 more up onto that, that 3 hex right there, you can hop back into Raylan Zara and have a perfect shot down. So huge initiative if Veggie wins and goes for that play.
Dysole, on the other hand, I don't know. Do you go full Arrowgruts? Do you put an order marker on Raylan?
I'm not sure. It's an interesting question.
Look like 1 is on a Death Chaser.
And yep, Veggie's doing exactly that. 1 initiative, back up Murphy, and take the pristine shot. 1 out of 3. Well, it's blockable. The Swag is obviously a huge starting point.
Right. Okay, 1 out of 4, nice.
It does its job.
That is a critical point for Dysole for James to stop rolling the 2 out of 3s.
Yes, indeed. Oh, but still both Arrowgruts fall. Even the 1 out of 3 is able to pull it off. It's a very nice play there.
Oh shoot! Do you remember how many order markers were on Murphy? Was it 1 or 2?
I do not. I would strongly suspect it was just 1.
Yeah, especially if Dysole's going in like that.
I think putting more than 1 on Murphy doesn't really even make sense, even if he lives, because after you take 1 or 2, really just after that 1 more shot, there aren't going to be a whole lot of figures left that are going to be grouped up.
Yeah, that's true.
So at that point, Laglor becomes a lot better use attacking figure. And at this point, Dysole can really only use 1 of those Arrowgruts as an offensive piece because the other one's going to have to stay safe to keep those order markers alive.
I mean, maybe.
or take the risk. I guess there isn't really a spot. So I guess the only real gamble here then is that Laglor isn't able to kill that forward Swag with an auto load that hits.
Right.
Which is probably a reasonable gamble to take. at this point in the game, for sure.
And that good old. Sometimes I think Leglor's just better as a defender than as an attacker because 3 defense, 6 life, and like especially when you've got Raylan there, he's gonna take a lot of pounding to get rid of.
For sure, yeah, Leglor is definitely one of the beefier heroes in that point range, and does some damage to Dysole's Raylan. And I like this play a lot here. So the Aerogrets are moving up primarily to just set up a screen that there's not a space where Leglor can get to that's not adjacent to somebody.
Mm-hmm.
To stop Leglor from being able to auto-load on those back Aerogrots.
But yeah. And once, assuming Murphy does get taken out, this turn would have been huge because then an Aerogrut can come right here and get the +2 from the Swags, +1 from height. That's 4 dice that it'll be rolling.
Yeah, it would have been definitely a nice spot. Hopefully for Dysole, it can still take out Murphy here and then jump up there next turn.
Mm-hmm.
Well, 2 out of 2 is a good way to do it. Yep, there it goes. But Murphy definitely put in his points worth this game.
Right. Now going for Raylan, which definitely makes sense because Raylan does already have 2 wounds, now up to 3 wounds. Just has to finish her off there.
Yeah, at this point, both of them are trying to finish off a wounded opponent, Raylan.
Oh, and those Swags are in Raylan's aura too, so yeah, definitely have to focus on Raylan there. Holy cow.
That's a lot of both of them are rolling fantastic dice during that auto load series. Yeah, like you mentioned, the Swags did finally catch up to the forward deployed Raylan.
Mm-hmm.
And now those Aerogrets are finally in the good spot. Double attacks for 4.
Nice.
Very good shot to finish off Raylan. And yep, there we go.
Yep, that'll do it.
Let's see how many wounds can get on Leglor.
It's a 4v4.
It looks like Dysole's thinking about who to target here.
Yeah, maybe thinking about a Yari. Which would be... I guess that makes sense because Leglor is going to be tied down with Raylan at this rate for a little while, and then we'll still also have to kill a Swag Rider.
Yeah, it's interesting for having so few Aerogrets left on the board for so long. They're surprisingly well protected.
Mm-hmm.
And there's just really not a lot that can get through to them.
Yeah. I think like protecting against this like a surprise Yari turn where Veggie's able to get off a few attacks of 2 and just like have those be the ones that matter. I think it's a pretty good idea. Looks like going for Leglor ultimately.
I think both plays have a lot of merit there.
Yeah.
I'm not sure which one necessarily I would take. There's definitely, like you were saying, there's definitely some risk there. The Yaris would have to take disengagements to get where they'd want to be.
Oh, that's true. I didn't even think about that.
Even then, it still might be worth it because for at this point in time, with having lost Raylan first, now Veggie's sort of on the defensive without the dice.
Yeah,
and just how much upside killing even one Swag Rider here, because that forward most Yari could have gotten up adjacent.
Yeah, just right there.
Get a few Yari up adjacent to the Swag, so I'm not sure. Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, like, this is really the point. This is the point in the game where it gets really, really fun because each figure is, like, so important at this point where things can swing so quickly. Leglor, has been doing okay, but really, like, his main thing is just how much survivability he's got with the jungle and with 6 life. But then these Yari still are also relevant in that they could be a risky play just to swing things back.
At this point, though, those 2 attacks of 4 from height on those arrow grunts are gonna put a dent in Laglor awful fast.
That's true, yeah. Well, maybe.
Unless Laglor hits 3 out of 4.
You know.
No, this is just some good dice all around.
Yeah.
This is an interesting question on, yeah. I think I probably agree with targeting the Swag here. The upside's just so huge.
Yeah, taking away that extra attack die, that's really big. And it, like, long term, it paves the way in case, like, Laglor falls and he has to go to Yari. That allows the Yari to then engage Arrowgret. Well, one Arrowgret.
Well, the other Swag would definitely take his place on the following turn, but still just
That's true.
Losing those attack dice is crucial. The anticipation and the build-up. And blocked.
They know they're being recorded. They've got to make it nice and dramatic.
Give us some nice 20-second pauses. I like it.
Oof, 2 wounds. I just love the image of, like, when you're able to get a Arrowgret that's boosted by, like, 3 or 4 Swag Riders, and just, like, all of a sudden its bow gets bigger and
massively boosted.
Yeah.
Ooh, but Laglor gets a good one through there.
With the auto load, yeah.
And now a chance to finish off Raylan potentially.
Oh, not quite, man.
Raylan with clutch timing.
And that's a big roll.
That'll do.
That's a dead Laglor.
And just like that, Dysole's in pretty commanding shape.
Yeah, these Arrowgrets should make pretty quick work of the Yari, so...
Yeah, there's not a whole lot the Yari can do against anything that Dysole has left.
They can't quite get adjacent to them. They can try to attack the Swag Rider, but even if they kill a Swag Rider, the Arrowgrets can then just, like, scatter. Attacks of 2 are relevant against a defensive 1.
So it's I'm certainly surprised that Dysole's Raylan is still alive, given how aggressively she moved early on. But at the same time, hindsight, it ends up working out really well. Can't be sure exactly what Dysole was thinking at the time, but I mean, what ends up happening is that James Murphy sort of just rushes past Raylan to take really good shots down on the start zone. So despite Raylan being so far forward, there really wasn't a whole lot of sustained offense going into Raylan. Sort of an interesting little case there, but I mean, I think probably a big risk, but it's certainly paid off.
Yeah, it was really interesting how, like, she was protected by just there being a bigger target on the board.
And I mean, I got to agree with the target selection. If I think I would certainly would have gone for all those grouped up Arrowgrets as well.
Yeah, I think the way that and it worked out in that, like, Dysole was able to push James back and then was able to get Orcs back into this area. Since James was only 1 figure, he wasn't really holding him back too much.
Yeah, for sure. And I think one of the interesting things, I wasn't entirely sure how it was going to play out at the beginning with Veggie's army having so many more Swags than Arrowgrets, but it ended up really helping out Dysole, because usually losing those 2 quick Arrowgrets the 2 quick Swags is pretty devastating. But in this case, with having four really an extra 2 Swags, because what I usually end up running with is some comparable number of Swag Riders and Arrowgrets, whereas here you had twice as many Swags. They were able to last quite effectively, even with just those 2 Arrowgrets being alive.
Yeah, and was able to use them, like, more offensively too, and not be as worried about it.
Yeah, definitely. knowing you still had one or two more back in the start zone to come fill the holes. And that looks like that's it.
Yep, that is the game. That's the last Yari down and a win for Dysole. So yeah, it's a cool game. I really liked seeing both of these armies in action. I was honestly okay. So even though I knew who won the game because it happened a while ago, and I did know that Dysole is the one who made it into the finals. Just like again, like when I was watching it live, and then again this time, seeing James go back to here, I'm like, oh no, what's Dysole gonna do? How is this gonna work out? But it worked.
Yeah, it did for sure. And I think a big part of the end game was that Laglor wasn't able to reach the heighted snow before the Aerogruts and the Swogs did.
Mm-hmm.
That turn where the Swog and the Aerogruts caught up with Murphy there was really huge, just because they ended up. I mean, if Laglor's up on height, I don't think the game ends the same way.
Yeah.
So if Laglor ends up getting to that high ground before the Aerogruts do, then the Aerogruts aren't ever going to be able to get into Raylan's aura in the way that they did, and then you just got auto load going down on all the figures in the back start zone. So Dysole did a very good job of grabbing that height at sort of the key points to keep Laglor stuck in the start zone, or not the start zone, but much further back and away from being developed to the position where Laglor probably wanted to be.
Yeah, being stuck right there next to a Raylan and a Raylan boosted Swag Rider is. I mean, yeah, it's just not a great place for a Laglor to be at an attack of 3, even with auto load. I mean, like there were what 2 times where he got 3 attacks off in a turn. Of course, one of those was pure blanks, but still, just not quite enough offense to be able to chip that through fast enough.
Yep.
But yeah, I really enjoyed this game. Congrats to Dysole for going to the finals. We look forward to seeing that at some point in the future. We'll see when that happens. But yeah, this is a really good game. This is one that I'd been looking forward to cast for a while. So I'm glad you were able to come in and join me for it, Chris.
Yeah, same. This was a lot of fun to watch. I was not able to watch it live, so definitely was a lot of fun watching this game, seeing how it played out. I think some really good examples of how to use very low numbers of common squad figures quite effectively. Dysole certainly got a ton of value out of just having 2x of each of those commons. Very, very tough thing to do, but certainly pulled off nicely. And we also watched the Yari fall quickly in almost all aspects, as the Yari like to do.
Yeah,
There is a reason they cost 10 points and are still not played.
Right. They started off strong. They're like, oh, hey, this is pretty cool. And then they just, fizzled like they're wont to do. But, and I think that's just like the key to this army is just like, there's not a ton of really strong offense in it. And so it'll be cool to see more games played with Dysole's army, because I do have a few more of those as well coming up in the near distant, I don't know, in the future.
It's an interesting build. Obviously, it worked quite well for Dysole, rolling all the way through to finals. Yeah, I think it's just ends up being really tough to get appropriate value out of those Yari. But
yeah, that's
fantastic game. A lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. And one cool thing about this game is that both Dysole and Veggie, I believe both of them, I'm pretty sure I saw a report from at least Veggie, I think Dysole as well, wrote battle reports from the main event. And so those will be linked in the description below. You can check those out. You can see their viewpoints on what they were thinking in the game. And so, yeah, definitely check those out, as well as all the other stuff that I plug for Online Con, Battle Report thread, the other threads, the ISB3's Twitch channel, Filthy. Lots of good stuff. There's lots of good stuff to check out still. It's all still in the description. If this is your first one watching, just check out the description. There's lots of links. I link a lot of stuff. But yeah, this is a really good game. I really enjoyed watching this one. And again, thanks so much, Chris, for joining me for this one.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me. Till next time, I suppose.
Yeah. Before we jump off, is there anything you'd like to share with the viewers? Anything you'd like to say?
I guess so. Just a reminder or information for any viewers who don't know. In mid to late October, I don't remember the exact date, but it's a Saturday. I think it's the third Saturday in October. There is another online competition coming up in honor slash for National Heroscape Day. There's a thread on Heroscapers. I imagine Big will probably link it in the description below, along with all those other good links. But it's a 1 day tournament, similar to online con in that it's going to be hosted on Discord, with probably 4 or 5 rounds happening back to back. The format is bring your own army with a list of banned figures. So most of the top armies won't be possible. Like you can't bring Raylan, you can't bring Rats, you can't bring Q9, things like that. So a good chance to explore some of the A minus B plus level of the meta in a sort of bring one format. But it should be a lot of fun. For anyone who's enjoying watching these, should definitely take a look at it and think about participating in that tournament. Good chance to get several good games of Heroscape in against fun competition.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, playing live online. I mean, like, playing online in general is really fun because you get to play against a lot of different people. But playing live online, you just get to, I don't know. I feel like there's a whole lot that's added to the atmosphere, and it's really really cool.
Yeah, and the Discord voice has been a really nice addition too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's still not in person, but at the same time, being able to talk with it feels so much more natural. Just being able to have that voice component as an added feature. So definitely think that's been a very positive addition to the online scene.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, like Chris said, check out the description. Definitely play it, try it out if you're at all interested. If you're on the fence, try it out. I was on the fence when I tried my first one, honestly, but it was a lot of fun. I had a bunch of fun doing it, and so this will be a great event. And National Heroscape Day. What else are you gonna do?
Yeah, hope to see some of y'all there. Just love the channel. Enjoy seeing the notifications on YouTube each time I pull it up. So keep up the good work. I think I speak for everyone watching when saying that we appreciate and enjoy having all this content coming out. So it's great to be a part of producing some of that, and appreciate the channel's existence.
Oh, thank you so much. That makes me really happy to hear that. I mean, I know there's a few people watching it, but it's still I don't know. It's always like kind of still surprising to me when people will put up with my voice to watch videos. So it's pretty cool. But yeah, thank you. So yeah, thank you again for joining. Thank you viewers so much for watching. As always, check out links. Let me know if there's anything that I can do to improve. Stay tuned for more online con action to come up. I think, I mean, I've said it the past couple of videos, but I think I've still got roughly half, maybe a little less than half of online con at this point to put up. So there's still lots of good stuff to come. We're still making our way through it. So until next time, this will be 10 points under and out.